It wasn't until I tried to leave the World Bank and I got another job inside that I started working on things that pushed me on the frontier in a positive way. In 1996, 1995, 1996, something landed on our desktop that was new to most people. What was it? Not the personal computer. We had personal computers for a while. The internet. The internet. Netscape, the browser. It was the first time that it became generally available to anybody who wanted to use it. How many people were working then? Raise your hand. Okay, let's get a slice on it. So you remember those first browsers, right? They were mostly text. And how did you know what to click on? Blue underlined text. Blue underlined text. And most people did not know what it was. I mean, if you were in the military, maybe you knew what it was. If you were a computer geek, maybe you knew what it was. But the rest of the world, this was something, interesting, novel, maybe we could use it. We had no idea what was coming. And so I decided to create a class where I was going to teach people how to use the web, and I was going to leave my regular job. So I started an organization. It was called Untangling the Web, and I started using my theater skills to do presentations around how it worked. And I'd work with a live PC, and I would explain to people, this was 1996, so we're talking 21 years ago, right? So I would say, you click on this blue link, and it sends a message out the cable in the back, which is World Bank's in downtown DC, so it goes through our T1 line, and it goes up to a fiber optic cable in Rockville, and then it goes off to China or Brazil. And the way the internet's set up is if it gets interrupted at any point, it knows how to go around it. That's what the internet's all about. And it retrieves a document, and it brings it back, and it does it all in less than 2 seconds. And in 1996, that was a big deal. You click on a link, this document would come up, and everybody would go, oh. Right? That was the energy of the internet. So I decided to leave the bank and make it my business to help people understand how to navigate the internet. But something got in my way, right? John Lennon's thing, life is what happens when you're making other plans. The World Bank saw what I was doing, and they asked me to start doing it for them. So I started creating presentations for people. Now, I've been working there for 7 years. Even though it wasn't my passion, after 7 years, you get to know the business, right? So I started creating them for different sectors, for the education sector, for the privatization sector. And really, though, it was about the internet. It wasn't about the sector. The sector was kind of a drop-in here thing. I do a little bit of research, pull up some websites in that sector. But the amazing thing was how to use the internet. That's what people were excited about. And it started creating a rolling momentum. And the bank came to me, and they said, we want you to stay here. They gave me the biggest increase in salary I'd ever gotten, with a 23% raise. They said, go upstairs, help us with strategy. We want everyone in our organization to understand how the internet works. And I was excited, and it pushed me to the frontier. And all of a sudden, I was working with senior leaders in the organization. It was a game changer for me. My job stopped being a job, and it started being something that was really exciting. I stopped promoting my experimental theater because I was getting all of my theatrical benefits at work. I mean, all this, it was like someone switched on the passion switch, right? And I traveled around and I did all of these dog and pony shows showing people how to use the internet. But what I didn't know was that I had made this move. It was still unconscious for me, from just executing what I needed to do to actually pushing the frontier and taking accountability for the energy that drives results in a different space. And I was driven to help people understand the internet. And that dropped me into an area that was called knowledge management. And back then, nobody knew what it was, right? And I got recruited to help with the knowledge management group. And it was an extraordinary group of people. There were just 4 of us in the beginning. We, if I can just kind of capture what the essence of that was, basically, our idea was that the assets that the World Bank had were in the hearts and minds of the people who were walking in and out the doors, not in the bank. That was the big idea. And in 1996, that was a really big idea, and most people thought we were crazy. People would say, this is the World Bank. We loan money. That's what we do here. What do you mean our assets are walking in and out of the door? We have no control over that. It was scary. And we said, that we still believe that, because what the World Bank has that nobody else has is 50 years of experience dealing with some of the world's most intractable problems. And where is that knowledge? It's in the hearts and minds of the people who are walking in and out the door. There's actually no way that you can capture it. You can harness it, but you can't lock it up like you can money. So that was the shift that took us from our asset is something solid, tangible, to our people in a very real way. And it was extremely threatening to the organization. Now the good news was we were off the radar screen. So nobody was antagonizing us. And the even better news was we had no budget. So nobody was coming after us. When you have no budget, it can sound like a constraint. But the reality is, first of all, you don't have to balance your books. So there's no overhead doing that because there's no books, right? Secondly, nobody's really paying attention to you because they don't take you seriously because you have no money. But what that did was it freed us up to spend 100% of our time on change and change leadership. And we were very successful. We received international recognition. In 2 years, we went from an unfunded mandate to $60 million a year in allocation. And then we had all those problems I was just telling you about. Then everybody came after us. And in fact, in 1998, the team used to joke among itself, what is knowledge management? It's anything you want to fund next year, right? Because everybody came to us looking for a piece of that $60 million. But we did shift the organization. And even today, knowledge is a critical component of the way the World Bank works. But my point here, when we talk about leadership development, is that it was my first experience where I was expected to drive change through an organization. And we had a big mandate. The World Bank was in over 100 countries. There were about 15,000 people at any one time. About a third of them were in an airplane flying somewhere. So it was multicultural, geographically distributed, and multidisciplinary. Those, by the way, are the three characteristics that make change the most difficult, right? Multicultural, multidisciplinary, and geographically distributed. And that describes pretty much every organization today.